Hello, good morning, welcome. I trust this finds you and yours content, at peace, and free. My name is Ramesh Taranarayan, and I'm here to share with you today. Our discussion is on the anatomy of the abdomen. We're going to thread that into abdominal massage and some meditations for healing that are both grounding and centering. Why is it that I know these things? I am a 3,000 hour trained massage therapist. That's been my primary source of focus for the last decade. And prior to that, I've been teaching yoga since 2004. My grandmother introduced me to yoga when I was 5 years old, and all of these things just, they're part and parcel of the process. So I want to give you a bit of an overview of how we're going to do this because I think it will be helpful um, as we just sort of filter in this information. But I want to use one of the lessons that I've learned through the embodiment and practice of yoga, and that's that in their profound books like the Upanishads or the Bhagavad Gita, they teach through analogy and metaphor. And so we're going to use a couple of analogies that I think will be very accessible for you to help put this information into your body. We're going to give you a sense of some tools that are just profound, everyday, simple, accessible means for you to make your digestion and your relationship with the process of elimination easier. And we're going to discuss the anatomy of the digestion and how everything goes together. And then once we've kind of got the lay of the land, I'm going to give you a really simple technique that you can do when you're lying down. It'll be a little bit tricky, but we're going to landmark some particular spots in the digestive process and give you space for you to practice. And then we're just going to do a little meditation. So initially, I want you to think about the body. The analogy that I've got for you is one of a swamp. And this idea of a swamp is is fascinating to me in that the resolution in order to fix a swamp is not to go and dig it out or drain it. In fact, the issue with land that becomes swamp like is that it's lost its sufficiency. Now, what I mean by that is if a land has contained, let's say, a greater amount of water than earth, but just enough that the water can't leave, what happens is that the tissue becomes stagnant, right? That land is not going to have an even exchange of health with the environment around it. And so, interestingly enough, the resolution for a swamp is to flood it with water, to give it more water so that it can start to shed some of the toxins that have accumulated in that process. The body is a very similar way. And so we want to start to look at the digestive process as one of sufficiency. The more we can engage with enough exchange, right? Which means that we have to get information in so that we can get information out. Um, it's an important analogy because a lot of us, it seems, we don't breathe enough, or even in the right ways where we're breathing down here into the abdomen. And we also don't drink enough water. Really, the most profound and simplest thing you can do for your body and your digestive process is to drink more water. And we'll talk about why that is true. The second analogy I want you to think about or work from with the body, with regards to the body, is start to view the body as a battery. The body is, we have, over the years as a kid, we didn't have rechargeable batteries. We just had a battery that could only give and give and give until it was drained. There was no way to put energy back into it. A lot of us treat our bodies in that similar fashion. We just give and give and give without making the time or carving out the space to replenish ourselves. And we end up losing a lot of our capacity over time because at some point the body's no longer able to generate energy, right? It needs to be refreshed, it needs to be replenished. And so it's a fascinating process. Um, it's a process though. You know, just like a rechargeable battery, we need to put it on the wall socket and give it a period of time where it's going to replenish itself. The body is the exact same way. That's what happens at night when we sleep. We're recentering and giving ourselves more information. So, how do we use these things to our favor? Um, you know, this analogy of a swamp, the healthy version of that is a wetland, right? There's enough water coming in as well as enough water leaving. And so we want to work with that. Same with the battery. There's enough energy coming in so that it can continue to generate current. Think about that from the body's perspective. The body is a collection of about 75 trillion cells, and they're all working together in unison. They differentiate. Some work as heart tissue, some work in digestion, some work in the nervous system. And in the West, we've divided the body into 11 systems. It's the easiest way for us to just kind of give perspective to these things, right? You have the digestive system, you have the reproductive system, you have the cardiopulmonary, which are the heart and the lungs. But the way in embryology that the body comes together is that there are three germ layers. There's an ectoderm, endoderm, and a mesoderm. And those are just kind of terms that are overwhelming in a sense. So I want to give this a very simple breakdown. The mesoderm is the connective tissue. That's your nails, that's your skin, that's the body's scaffolding that we have. And all of these things, what they do is they kind of interlace with one another. So it's not like the digestive system is just here and it runs down the throat and it comes into the stomach and curls around and into the small and large intestine. No, these things are interlaced and interwoven. So it's almost like they're sheathed in one another. So this relationship is very dynamic. They're working together always. And so how does this come into play? For example, the digestive system is encased in something called the mesentery, right? It's a peritoneal sheath. It's almost like a pillowcase for the digestive organs. And so we want to consciously work with that. How do we do that? As we said, the first one is water. Water is our most important inorganic material in the body. We need it. It functions as a solvent. So if we want to break down food, we need to use it to help dissolve things. It functions as a lubricant. All of our joints, when we work in motion, water is really the foundation of the ability that we're frictionless when we do that. But water is the medium that our body takes place in. We're 70% water, so we need these things to be our baseline. So drink water. Drink more water than you want to. You should be going to the bathroom enough so that your urine is clear. The reason that it's yellow is that it's a byproduct of the digestive enzymes, right? As we break things down and our kidneys extract like value, we want to work with that. And so the more water you drink, the better your body is going to be able to process things in so that you can put more out into the world. And don't we need you today? We need you in the world able to contribute to all of our greater well-being and health, our perspective. So let's just ring the bell for that. Okay, so this connective tissue functions almost like a scaffolding. And what that means is we have these pivot points in the body, right? So I've got my central axis here of my spine. down here at the pelvis is kind of the center of my body and my center of gravity and everything. Down here, I've also got my reproductive organs. My digestive organs sit above it, and then you've got the heart and the lungs up here. So this scaffolding functions to kind of hold things in place. For example, my shoulder is here, but I come down to the front of my rib cage here where the diaphragm is. And it's valuable in that I have to work my body so that it's upright and against gravity. But as you can see, when it's top heavy like this, gravity wants to pull things out of the way. So we have these pivot points, and I've got the head up here and it's heavy, but when it's forward, my body wants to fall forward or back. So how do we work with this? Well, the body evolves to work against gravity. We do this, again, by creating something that our water uses as a medium. We create an electromagnetic field. The body is a battery. We have a positive pole and a negative pole, and so we're always working those things. Now, this scaffolding works on the physical because it's that electromagnetic field that's holding all these cells together. So 75 trillion cells working together. The thing that unifies them is this scaffolding and its electromagnetic field. What this looks like when you walk, for example, is that every time you take a step, your body, your pelvis, is actually massaging your digestive organs. So, in Europe, for example, a lot of people will go and they'll take a walk after dinner. In part, that's to draw the energy out of their stomach and into their cells, so that they, don't just have this big dump of insulin into the body, and now they've just got all this excess energy, and then they don't have somewhere to put it. That little walk pulls those energies into the muscle cells, which is helpful for us to manage our weight. But it's also to help move the digestive capacity of the large and small intestine, which we're going to talk about in a sec. So it's important to recognize in the digestive process that chewing your food is really the start of this process. We want to use the saliva of our glands here as our taste buds sense our food. What happens is we're signaling through the nervous system the type of enzymes that are coming. For example, if I eat vegetables, I'm eating zucchini and sweet potato and such. My body is like, oh, we need to start to digest carbohydrates. I need to stimulate those secretions, which happens immediately in the mouth. Even as I'm chewing, I'm making my food smaller and smaller so that it forms something called a bolus. It travels down here. Now, when I breathe, I'm breathing in and through the trachea, which is over here. When I eat or swallow, I'm doing that through the esophagus. The esophagus travels down behind the heart and the lungs, and it comes to the top of the stomach. The stomach is a big, beautiful shape. It kind of looks like, I pulled some images just to help you see. But you can see here, you've got on that big top bit, the liver, and then just behind it and to the side is the stomach. It kind of looks like a kidney. You can see the small and the large intestine set up in there as well, which is all inside of here. So those are the holes that the esophagus comes through. And this is the diaphragm that it's sitting under. So the next best thing you can do for yourself with regards to digestion is actually learn how to breathe. When we breathe into our upper chest, we're not massaging the digestion. We want to be breathing down here so that when the diaphragm descends, each of our breaths press down into this container and give it a little bit of kneading, a little massage. And so you can see it here in a little bit of a different perspective, but over here on the side, the way that the body is, there's almost an asymmetry to it. right? It's beautiful inside, but all of these things are densely packed. So when you breathe, what you're doing, you can see it here as well, what you're doing is you're massaging all of these organs. And that is encouraging something called peristalsis, which is the natural digestive process. And we can think of this, if we're on our own body, as moving clockwise, right? Just like a clock moves, we're starting kind of up and on the right and moving down and out the left. Our when we eliminate things from our body, we're moving it down and out the left side of the body. So let's talk about anatomy. These are your hip points. They're called the ASIS. It doesn't really matter, but if you feel them, these are reference points. Now, bringing my fingers up to kind of where my trachea and this V meet. I'm going to find a little notch. The I learned the name for this in the English Patient, the movie. It's called the suprasternal notch, and that's because this is the sternum, and it's just above it. Now, if you bring your peace fingers here and just kind of bring them to this bone where it meets the sternum, and I want you to shrug your shoulders up. And you're going to feel how this bone is attaching the arms onto the body. Now, if you roll your shoulders forward, you're also going to feel how that is relating. This is the collarbone, and the collarbone is also known as the clavicle. It's kind of like a spoon shape, and it is the only bone that holds the arm on the body. If you bring your fingers out to where the shoulders are, you're going to find that this collarbone is continuous, and you'll feel that spoon-like shape. Now, if you bring your fingers out about 2/3, I want you to just keep that in mind as in line with your nipples. So this line is going to be helpful for us as we landmark a couple of things in the body. Now, bring your finger to your navel, and if you look at the navel, next time you're in the mirror, just pay attention to it. You know, where some of us have pulls. And so if, for example, my navel were pulling down and to the left, that might be teaching me something about what's going on in my body. Likewise, up and to the right would also be teaching me something. It's just more information, but pay attention to the shape of your navel. This is our umbilicus. This is how we were attached to our mother in the womb. This is how, for the first 9 months of our life, we got so many nutrients. So these are landmarks that we're going to use. And I want to kind of just walk you through how that looks. So for example, the esophagus descends behind the heart, and it comes down here. Where the ribs meet up in this center line is something called the xiphoid process. It's very tender here, so watch out. Please don't push here. But I want you to recognize that the stomach comes down to the left just a little bit and then scoops back and under. Now, on the right side here, we have the liver. The stomach is behind the liver, so it's underneath it. And the tip of the stomach, this is where most of the churning happens for your digestion. The tip of the stomach comes through and down and under. It's about 12 centimeters long, and it's called the duodenum. This is the transition point from the stomach where we first process food into the body and do a lot of the big churning as we mix all of those digestive enzymes together that the stomach, the stomach produces, but also the gallbladder and the pancreas. We want to put those things now back into the small intestine, which is mostly here. It's about, 7 meters, I think 21 feet, the small intestine, and it's just woven together. It does these little kind of curls back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it's very densely packed. This is where 90% of your nutrients are absorbed into the body. Pretty profound. This is where most of your body makes energy from. And this is where that pillowcase is. So remember, we've got these layers of the body, and the small intestine is punched through into this pillowcase. The pillowcase attaches just kind of where the diaphragm is on the back of the body. And all of these things matter. So from the small intestine, from the stomach to the duodenum, you have this little junction. It's got a fancy name. And this is actually in line with the middle of the clavicle, your nipple, and just here where the low ribs are. If you bring your hip point in towards the navel, about 2/3 of the way as well, and come up, that's going to be in line. So this isn't a key point. This is a transition point, and sometimes what happens is things get a little bit tight in here. Maybe we eat something that doesn't agree with us, and the body is kind of like, ooh, it locks it down. And so we want to recognize that point. At night, often what I'll do is I'll bring this part of my hand, this big, wide, flat part of my hand, and I'll just rest it there. And as I just breathe into my belly, I kind of have a system at night where I transition to sleep. And I'll breathe into my abdomen while resting my hand here and give it a little encouragement in a clockwise direction. So I'll rest my hand there, let it settle, and then start to encourage it in that, oh, you can move on, right? We want to encourage that direction. So the small intestine runs from there down to the ileocecal valve, which is the transition point from the small to the large intestine. And again, same sort of thing. Hip point, navel, about 2/3 of the way in, right in line with the mid-clavicle. And that point, I again will just rest my hand there, and I'll encourage my digestion from this place by encouraging a clockwise direction. And I try not to move my hand so much. This is a very soft thing. I breathe into it, gradually my hand relaxes. And as I move into that, I'll try to move from my shoulder. And you can see that my hand is moving, but I'm allowing this sensitivity of the sensory of my hand to respond to the movement of my shoulder. And this is going to encourage, again, that transition point so that we're encouraging the peristalsis, this digestive process. Now, 90% of the nutrients are absorbed here in the small intestine. That 10 to 20% in the large intestine, water tends to be reabsorbed back into the body, which is where we need water in our body. If we're not drinking enough, what happens is gradually the feces get really dried out. And in Ayurveda, which is the Indian life science that the Hindu pantheon works with, what they're deciding is that a lot of us get undigested matter that accumulates and inflames our large intestine. Our gut starts to have the inability to absorb nutrients because we're eating things that may not agree with us, or we're inconsistent in our digestion and all sorts of things. So we want to find a way to encourage that. Now we have a large intestine that kind of looks like a square. It's easy to think about this as a square right now, even though it's more of a parallelogram. And we'll talk about that and make it very accessible. But the liver is up here, and there's something here called the hepatic flexure. And then the spleen is over here on the side. And this is called the splenic flexure. And imagine that the spleen were here and we would have a square. But because the spleen's over on the side, what it does is it pulls, here's the ascending colon, here's the transverse colon that kind of hangs underneath the liver, and it attaches to the spleen. So from the liver to the spleen, you've got this run all the way to the side, and then it goes down here to this low hip point, creates a little S shape before leaving the body at the rectum. These are landmarks that we want to be using in our digestive process. If you have the time right now, Great. Pull some sesame oil or some coconut oil and just have it with you because we're going to give ourselves a nice little massage. But if you don't have it, just think about these landmarks as kind of your transition tonight into sleep and give yourself a little bit of a massage. We want to work initially with that part down here at the right hip point. So the hand melts into the belly and we want to encourage clockwise. You'll find that it sometimes almost feels like a little bit denser and maybe the size of a quarter. From here, you want the same sort of thing. We're looking for that mid-clavicle, mid-nipple line and just between the hip and the navel. And that point here at the top side is, once we've opened this up, that's more room for things as they move to encourage this to open. From there, we want to play with encouraging the abdomen. A little sesame oil. Sesame is hypoallergenic. I believe coconut oil is too. And we just want to encourage things to move down and out towards the left hip, right? If we're moving in reverse of this, we're confusing how the body naturally moves. So we want to encourage our digestion. I think of this as sun and moon. My right hand becomes kind of like the sun and it's constantly in motion. And then because the moon is only receiving that light half the time, I drop it in to help encourage here. So I want to use these heels of my hands just as a wide, flat surface to encourage digestion. There's no need to shower afterwards. In fact, this is kind of hydrating for the tissue, right? Even from the surface of your body, you don't have to shower afterwards. This can be done anytime. I'm demonstrating it by sitting up because I just have to share with you in this way. But I do this laying down because that way the tissues relax. If I'm laying down, I can really focus on the process of this. So remember, drink enough water. We want to start with the breath. Lay on your back and start to breathe here in the abdomen, right? The chest stays still and the breath is here with the abdomen. This is called a diaphragmatic breath. We want to breathe in the abdomen. From there, I drop to my right hip point and encourage opening what's called the ileocecal valve, right? And then I move to my upper left side and encourage the DJ junction, the duodenum junction. And then from there, I want to drop to my left hip, come down and across clockwise to my right hip, up to my right where the liver is, just below my right nipple, come across gently to the spleen on the left, and then clockwise, right? So I'm moving clockwise from the left hip is the elimination point. So, so from right to left, right to left. And this, I use my right hand, you can use your left, it doesn't really matter, but think of this as the sun. I want to create, and this is where it's nice to have some oil because we want to reduce friction. If I were doing this just on my skin, I would find that it would pull on the skin at a superficial level. I want to be able to sink down. This is something that, massage therapists should be doing every time you go and get a relaxation massage, but a lot of people get nervous about this stuff. And so, as is often the case, we need to rely upon ourselves for this health and nourishing practice, right? So we're encouraging elimination down and out through the left side. Try to find the ascending colon. Look at an image of the digestive tract, and then I would go across the transverse colon to the spleen and down and out. If you've just eaten, I would recommend giving this like at least 20 to 30 minutes. That's how long it takes for things to leave the stomach. And then once they're kind of moving and in process, then this is okay. But it doesn't require a great amount of pressure. Even just doing this with, if you don't have oil or you don't want to, you can use one of those exfoliating gloves or even a gentle light brushing. That surface engagement is still going to teach the digestive system that we're here with it and encouraging that peristalsis, right? Peristalsis is just that natural movement of the digestive process of elimination. Things come in the top, they move in and down, out in a clockwise direction. And so it's not that it's not that you're missing out. I would find somebody who specializes in digestive massage, and not even that they need to specialize in it, but it's a confidence thing. A lot of massage programs only teach 100 to 2 to 500 hours. I was really fortunate in that the program that I did was a 20-month, 3,000-hour program. And in Canada, I'm registered as a medical massage therapist. And so this allows us to work in hospitals. It allows us to have confidence with different layers of the body and how they work together. And so, finding somebody who is very proactive with their continuing education is the work of this. So, but in the meantime, you can do this for yourself. Again, even just doing this at night as you're transitioning to bed, working that digestive breathing, getting really present with your body, it's wonderful. You're going to find that this is going to help move things. Now, if you feel that there's something that's kind of hung up, let's say here, the sigmoid colon is the end. It's kind of the last spot before the process of elimination leaves the body. And so feces can kind of get dried and stuck up in there. And if that happens, I tend to bring my hands together. I stack my fingers just to support them. And I give, again, following that clockwise movement, I look for my hip point and then in. So you can kind of see this line here. You don't need the line, but you want to be on the outside of the intestine, right? So if you get in and under, you can kind of scoop under it and then sink in to that pelvic basin. And from there, using your hands to support that elimination process, clockwise direction, moving towards out, and just look for there's a sense of restriction, there's a sense of density there. And if you can, see if you can encourage that to move down and out. You're almost breaking up. Think of it as this dehydrated, let's call it what it is, turd. And we want to break it up so that we want to hydrate the tissues and allow things. Sometimes if we eat something, let's say very dry, it can block the digestive process. Maybe we ate in a hurried manner. We didn't chew our food long enough. We didn't engage those digestive enzymes to the point where the body is like, yes, okay, we need to go in and encourage that to move along. And so remember that because the spleen is over here on the side, this descending colon is often much further to the side than we think. So rather than coming up here along this nipple line, we want to come over to the side and then come back to the sun and moon, right? So you can have these little focused local processes, and then again, a more global approach, sun and moon. So my hand's off and it's back on. And you can almost create like a ringing, okay? So you're taking the tissue and drawing it almost into its core and then letting it flood out. We're almost like wringing tissue, right? Just like if you're using a face cloth to wash your face, like you're just the same sort of thing. All of this tissue is together in that pillowcase, as we've been talking about. All of the intestine is packed inside of this, and this hangs off of the low back right around here. So, there are a number of different things. We need that sufficient water. Chew your food. Really see if you can make a game of it. So you can get 20 or 30 chews, even if it's just like um, basic basmati rice. Like you want to be able to to set your body up for success. We need to chew our food because it signals through the nervous system, this is what is needed right now. And it's just so simple. And sadly, it's not the kind of thing that we're taught. Um, it's really accessible to each of us. So, take your time. Be willing to, even if you're doing something like juices or smoothies, give yourself enough time between sips. You've got a smoothie, don't just do it all in 30 seconds or 3 minutes. Give yourself enough time to take a sip, let that process out, because don't forget that a lot of smoothies are, some of them are kale or spinach, some of them are dates, some of them are a lot of almond and nut butters, right? Oat milk. These are very dense materials, and they're very, it takes some time to digest them. So give yourself, enough space. I think we've all been full and felt that way. With regards to water, I think Ayurveda suggests that the stomach should be about 2/3 food, let me say this another way, like a half of food, 1/4 water, and then, there should be like a quarter space as well. So, um, this process is going to help that. Again, just give yourself some space after you've eaten, after you drank water, just to kind of let things settle. Um, we're so inundated with information in our world that we're all really overwhelmed, and it's hard. It's challenging, and we're tired. The body itself gets tired, and so we want to give it permission to succeed. We want to give it space so that it can generate more energy. And how do we do that? By really cultivating periods of rest and then periods of engagement. And food is part of that. Gentle exercise can be part of that. So much fiber has been extracted. It's such a confusing thing because they've stripped all the fiber out of the food and then they sell it back to us as raisin bran. We need to start to, again, generate fiber in our diet to help move and flush things through. So, yeah, genius. It's true. You always want to really take the time to absorb these things and teach the body that this is what's coming and have some sort of engagement on it. Yeah, I like Elisa's rule. That's a good one. I personally follow that as well. When I'm eating meals, um, I don't drink too much water around the time. What I'll do is I do cultivate, before and after. Water is my constant companion. It's my favorite drink. And I think that's because my body is mostly 70% water. If I drink enough water, I recognize that there's a healthier exchange in my own body. So, um, and I grind up things like flaxseed to get omega 3s when I make smoothies. I also use hemp seeds as well. That is such a negligible thing because it's got, again, those healthy fats and oils that we really want in our bodies. So by all means, this is an individual journey, and there's so much information. We really want to give ourselves enough space. And so it's not that it's not good to drink water and eat at the same time. It's just that, if we're thinking about the stomach, its job is to churn everything together. And so we have to give it enough space to do that. If the stomach, let's say, is a cup of space, right, or 2 cups of space, you've got half of that to be food, but then you need a medium for things to sort of work together, for all those digestive enzymes to engage with the food, for the mechanical process of churning, right? The stomach is mixing those things together. And that's why if we're not chewing our food and then just swallowing it, we're sending these big items for the body to then have to work through, as opposed to like taking smaller bites, taking longer times to chew it, is giving the body more of an opportunity to just say, "Oh, great, we figured out how to do this." Um, so it's the process. We want to engage with the process, and then also leave enough space in there for everything to turn. I'm sure we've all experienced overeating to the point where nothing's moving, and we want to, as much as we can, keep ourselves back from that place. So I like that. That's a good way to describe it. So I think enough of this detail, and I'd like to approach this from a subtler side of things. So I suggest that we meditate together just a little bit. If you've got the space to do it, great. If not, um, this is also going to help with the process of elimination. There's two, if you've never heard of bayus, then you're in for a treat, because there's these different airs that move in the body. And apana is sort of the descending version of that. And samana is a centering version of that. We're going to work with these just as a gentle kriya with our breath to generate and help our process of elimination. So find a seat. If you've met my class for the anatomy of meditation, then this will be familiar to you. But if you can, get your hips higher than your knees, whether you're in a chair or on a block. And if you can, align your sacrum, the heart, and your soft palate, and just give yourself some freedom here to make space. Take a couple of breaths in through the belly, in through the nose, down into the belly, and see if you can descend all the way into the pelvic floor, almost like the pelvic floor was a trampoline. And as you inhale, allow that trampoline to bow down and out, and exhale, and it comes back up. See if you can draw this awareness of your breath right down to the pelvic floor. That's where we want to rest. You can close your eyes if you'd like. And as you inhale, draw all of your awareness, all of your feeling, all of your consciousness right down to the base of the spine. So we're looking at first chakra sort of area. And a slight pause with the breath there. And I want you to hold, without strain, your awareness at that root chakra. As you exhale, all of your physical and mental toxins leave the body. They're just dropping down and out right to the core of the earth. So again, inhale all the way in through to the pelvic floor. Slight pause without strain. Exhale all of your breath. See if you can get the breath to be a 1-to-1 ratio. So if it's a 5-count inhale, it's a 5-count exhale. Inhale, descend to the root, pelvic floor, slight pause, concentrate right here, and then purge mental and digestive toxins out the body, down to the planet's core. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale through your nose. You're moistening the air as it enters your body. The diaphragm descends. A slight pause without any issue, any strain. And as you exhale, just physical, mental, emotional toxins down and threaded like a funnel out the body, just like the drain in your tub, right into the core of the earth. Follow your own breath. No strain, just watching that 1-to-1 breath ratio as it exchanges. Inhale, Slight pause, exhale. We'll do this for 3 or 4 more rounds. Just follow your breath. Now, the next time you draw your awareness down to the root of your spine, I want you to imagine, we'll hold our awareness at the base, the root chakra, and imagine a downward pointing blue triangle. Just keep your awareness here. Keep your consciousness here at the root chakra. Your breath is steady, 1 to 1. Feel secure. Feel it. Sense this blue triangle. And as you sense it, notice from the root chakra almost energy. It can be heat, it can be light. It's thrusting its way downwards like flashes of lightning. Again, to the planet's core, this grounding sense of energy allows you to sit upright just a little bit taller. Breath is effortless, even exchange. No pauses, just awareness of the root chakra. Engaging this downward, energizing release. Downward pointing blue triangle at the root of the spine. From the tip, little shocks of energy, light, heat. It's following your process. From this place, I want you to sense around you the room, the building, your neighborhood, the street, town, state, or province. Just continue to expand your awareness until you're beyond the galaxy out into a universe. Just feel all of these influences, these celestial bodies, locally and globally, and see if you can funnel them down in through the crown of your head to the navel center on the inhale. Slight pause, cultivate this energy. And then the exhale just spreads through the navel center. Again, inhale through the crown of the head, down into the navel center. This funneling universal energy collects the navel, cultivate it, collect it, and then spread it through on the exhale. Inhale through the crown of the head, funnels down right to the navel center, this umbilicus, our eternal connection to the universal mother, coalesces into a collection in our slight pause, and then as we exhale, spread it through the navel center, spread it through the heart, spread it out into the entire body, this centering from the navel. Follow your own breath in and down, collect it, concentrate it, spread it through the body, mind, heart. Inhale. Slight pause without strain. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Drawing all these celestial forces, this universal oneness to our navel center, collecting it, concentrating it, and then distributing it through the form. This is just a kriya where we move our awareness with our concentration and our breath. It goes by many names, but this energy, this non-duality, this oneness that we originate from is something that we're always in touch with. This is a foundational energetic principle of the world as we understand it from a scientific place. Now, from this place, with your attention at the navel center, I want you to observe this spiral, multicolored energy from the navel center. It's anchored at the navel, it's clockwise in origin, spiraling into your center, into your beingness. This luminous, stable center is concentrating and expanding. Each inhale is again one-to-one. There's no pause between the breath. We're just watching as this ever-expanding concentration of light spirals at the navel center. Seems to almost pulse as it spreads power throughout. Conjuring, experiencing a greater collection of energy as light. For some people, this may express itself as sound. For my kinesthetic people, you can feel this percolating in your navel center. This luminous center expanding in all directions from this central anchor point of your navel. And just observing the mind doing what the mind does, the body doing what the body does, the heart doing what the heart does. Just be in stillness together. Be at ease. You can run the tongue around the inside of the mouth. Just run the thumbs and the fingertips alongside one another. Roll the shoulders. And feel the sit bones beneath you. Just checking in with your body, coming back through the body. You can rub the palms together, building a little heat. And release this to the hands. As you open your eyes, just let the light back in. Hands to prayer. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing of your curiosity, of your presence. And please find me on Instagram or message me here and just let me know how this goes for you. If you have any follow up questions, I'm here for you. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I'll be sharing different threads of something that I've termed generally anatomy. It's just the desire to help you have deeper experiences through understanding more about your body and how it works and all of these things as they come together. You and I, cannot be separate from anything. We are um, ever present in the eternal now. And just like the banana, we want to dance with what brung you here, you know, knowing that a banana has a lot of potassium after you've gone for a run or been in a sauna, it is a very good friend. Just like meditation, just like knowledge being the precursor to experience, which is something one of my teachers, Joe Dispenza, shares, and I recognize it to be true. But I also think it's valuable to start before you're ready. So I hope that you feel confident in some of the tools that you learned here today. And thank you so much for your sharing, for your presence, for your donations. They are helping all of this move forward. So please, many blessings, and I'll see you in the next class. Best. Mm.